Coming up on Valley News Live at 10, a man calls our whistleblower hotline after receiving suspicious mail. What he wants you to look out for.
A sigh of relief as some educators begin receiving the COVID vaccine.
Plus, lawmakers pushing for changes to North Dakota's election process. Valley News Live at 10 starts right now.
This is Valley News Live at 10.
I just kind of felt that people should be warned about that receiving letters like that in the mail, you do need to check into them.
New at 10 tonight, a Frazee, Minnesota man has a warning for you, sharing a suspicious letter he and his neighbors received in the mail.
It's looking for personal information, and that prompted him to reach out to our whistleblower hotline. Valley News Team's Courtney Lockie investigated and has our story.
Clayton Bruner opened his mailbox to this letter earlier in the week.
And as soon as I opened it, I knew right away it was kind of shady. It had a document in it that looks like a text document.
It's labeled important with a deadline date to respond. The letter claims you may qualify for a state-regulated program to pay for your final expenses, your funeral expenses. It claims it will pay for 100% of those expenses up to $35,000. And it goes on to ask for your personal information.
They want your name, age, spouse's name, age, address, phone number.
When a friend came to Bruner with the same letter, he decided to call our whistleblower hotline in hopes of warning others.
I don't want a lot of people out there sending their personal information to a company.
We checked into the letter and found out it comes from a marketing company in Georgia, intending to gather your info for a company selling funeral services.
There's a lot of people that don't investigate or look into stuff like that. They just, oh, I missed something, so I better fill this out and return it.
There is an assistance program here in North Dakota that will provide between $300,000 to $300,000 to cover a burial or cremation, but nowhere close to the $35,000 in this scam. In Frazee, Minnesota, Courtney Lockie, Valley News Live.
If you need help uncovering fraud and corruption in your community, call our whistleblower hotline 237-6576 and leave your tip. A member of our investigative team will get on the case and go to work to expose the truth.
And if you're looking to stay on top of the latest vaccine information, check this out. It's our new VNL vaccine tracker. Just open your phone's camera, point it at the QR code on your screen, then tap the link that pops up. We'll keep the tracker up in the bottom corner of your screen for the next few minutes.
Today, thousands of Minnesota educators received their first dose of the COVID vaccine. Kate Radix explains how it went and a possible flaw in the process.
Vaccinations were handled a bit differently this week at Roy Wilkins Auditorium, as the state only guaranteed spots by regions rather than allocating a specific number of vaccines to each school district, leaving it up to the districts to send out invites to educators on their priority list.
I'm really excited that we're given this opportunity. And I'm ready to do it.
Districts were instructed to send out invites no earlier than 6 p.m. Tuesday night, giving priority educators first come, first serve access. But the Department of Education spokesperson said it's likely some sent them out early and that some staff members forwarded the sign-up code to other educators not on the priority list. The state used the same code for all 15,000 available appointments.
We heard from several teachers that said they were chosen to get the vaccine this weekend, but by the time they were able to register, they were already on the waiting list.
There's been some teachers that I know in other districts that sat in a waiting room for a while and were never actually able to make an appointment.
The state faced technical challenges in week one of the pilot vaccine sites. After this week's issues for educators, the Minnesota Department of Education released a statement saying, in part, we will continue tweaking this process as we go so that we can find the best way to ensure every school staff member who wants and needs a vaccine is able to receive one.
In a lot of this, there's just a lot of good neighbor stuff has to go on this, and there's just a lot of trust in people not to get on and take somebody else's spot.
A spokesperson for the Minnesota Department of Education wants to remind everyone that this is a pilot program. They say they're learning every week what works and what doesn't work and are looking to improve it as time goes on.
According to the CDC, North Dakota is leading the nation in getting the vaccine into arms. But does that mean the supply is running low? State health officials say no. They say the state is receiving a constant flow on a week-to-week basis. If there is a reduction in vaccine allocations, the state says it would notify providers immediately to slow down and plan to vaccinate fewer people.
until we get further down into that priority group, I think that we will always have a demand, and I think that's a good thing. I think that it shows that people are starting to take the vaccine serious and think it's a safe and effective way to stop the spread of COVID.
At this point, the state is being notified 3 weeks in advance about how many vaccines to expect.
A new campaign is urging people to get outside this winter, but in a safe way. The Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission launched its Mask Up and Mask Out initiative today. They're encouraging Minnesotans to get outside and explore the many parks and trails the state has to offer. But they're asking you to do so with a mask on and with COVID safety in mind.
Because it's still a good idea to stay socially distanced and masked up for when you do meet people in the outdoors. So it's a takeoff on the really good advice from the Minnesota Department of Health to mask up. But we're saying mask out. Get outside, put your mask on, and wrap a scarf around your face and get out and enjoy it.
Matson says not only will the mask keep you safe from COVID-19, but it keeps your face warm on these cold Minnesota days. Minnesota's statewide mandate requires masks in indoor areas, but through this campaign, wearing one outside is suggested.
North Dakota's House has just killed a bill that would make mandating wearing a mask at work illegal. North Dakota lawmakers are dealing with several bills regarding mask mandates. It would have allowed workers to opt out of a mask requirement with a doctor's note or religious objection.
How would that be enforced? The regulatory agency said the bill does not provide enough clarity for the reasons I've stated. Regardless of your position on masks or not wearing masks, this is not the right bill for it.
75% of lawmakers opposed it, saying there were fundamental problems.
Some lawmakers are suggesting changes to North Dakota's election process, which in the last year had plenty of mail-in and absentee ballots. Critics of those methods contend there were issues of fraud, but the Deputy Secretary of State says there's no need for concern.
I think what is partially happening here is that what happened in other states, there's fear that it's going to happen here. It's not going to.
Ask Mr. Blessum.
One proposed bill places restrictions on who can qualify to use an absentee ballot. Plenty of people spoke in opposition.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is seeking advice from someone who is still arguably one of the most powerful Republicans. He met with Donald Trump today in Palm Beach. We're told the pair discussed how to win back the House in 2022. Democrats are still in control, though they won in 2020 by a slimmer margin than in 2018. Endorsements from President Trump could go a long way in helping Republican candidates get votes, but they could also backfire. The GOP is experiencing a divide that saw 10 Republican representatives vote for impeaching Trump a second time.
NASA is paying tribute to those who lost their lives in the pursuit of space exploration. January 28th is NASA's Day of Remembrance. Today, the entire agency commemorated space missions that ended in tragedy, honoring the crews of Apollo 1, Space Shuttle Columbia, and the Space Shuttle Challenger. Today marks 35 years since the Challenger explosion. In 1986, the space shuttle broke apart 73 seconds into flight.
Classic car lovers will have additional chances to see them this summer in the FM area. The Valley Vintage Car Club will be hosting events on Center Street in Moorhead. The dates haven't been secured, but the club has 190 members, so it's expected there'll be some great turnouts. Meanwhile, Cruise Night in West Fargo will be moving away from downtown. It's a temporary move because of road construction that's expected in that area this summer. The new location hasn't been nailed down, but it could be near the lights at Cheyenne. Cruise nights are held on the third Thursdays of June, July, August, and September.
Still ahead tonight, a husband and wife successfully jumped the line to get the COVID vaccine. We'll tell you about their elaborate scheme and how they pulled it off. Coming up.
But first, back in the 20s tomorrow and heating up through the weekend. Hutch has your full forecast next.